So you've probably heard about Ramadan, right? But what if I told you that in 2026, it's actually going to start on 2 different days? Yep, you heard that right. Today, we're going to dive into this incredible puzzle and unpack the amazing mix of astronomy, ancient tradition, and modern life that makes it all happen. And at the center of it all is what we're calling the 2026 Ramadan paradox. It's this wild situation where you've got modern science on one side and ancient tradition on the other. And they're both right. But somehow they lead to two totally different start dates. How does that work? So that's the big question we're tackling. How on earth can nearly 2 billion people start one of the most important months of the year on two separate days? We're talking Wednesday, February 18th versus Thursday, February 19th. Let's dig in and figure this out. And listen, this isn't just some academic thought experiment. This is happening right now, for real. You've got major groups like the Fiqh Council in the United States who serve a huge community that needs to plan ahead for work and school. And they're using calculations to lock in February 18th. But then you look at countries like Saudi Arabia and Morocco, and they're sticking to the time-honored tradition of physically sighting the moon, which puts them on the 19th. So yeah, the paradox is very, very real. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, our first clue isn't actually in a religious text. It's up in the sky. It all boils down to the huge difference between the calendar most of us use every day and the one that marks the Islamic year. You know, the calendar on your phone, the Gregorian calendar, that's a solar calendar. It's all about the Earth taking about 365 days to go around the sun. But the Islamic calendar is totally different. It's purely lunar. It follows the moon's orbits around us, which only takes about 354 days. That creates this 11-day difference every single year. And trust me, that little gap is everything. And the effect of that 11-day shift? It's huge. Because the lunar calendar isn't tied to the seasons, Ramadan actually drifts through the entire year. Over about 33 years, it'll hit every single season. So if you remember fasting during those long, hot summer days back in 2015, well, in 2026, it's going to be happening in the cool of winter or early spring. So how does a new lunar month officially start? It all begins with a specific astronomical moment called conjunction. I love this analogy. Think of it like the moon's official, invisible birth certificate. It's that exact moment when the moon is perfectly lined up between the Earth and the sun. And because of that alignment, it's completely dark from our perspective. It's been born, but we can't see it yet. But just being born isn't enough to kick off the month the traditional way. Nope. That tiny sliver of a crescent, called the hilal, has to actually be seen with your own eyes. And for that to happen, it's got to clear 4 major astronomical hurdles. Think of it like a cosmic obstacle course. It has to be far enough from the sun, high enough in the sky, old enough, and it has to stick around long enough after sunset for us to even have a chance to see it. Okay, so let's bring this back to 2026. On the critical evening of February 17th, which is when everyone will be looking, scientists predict the moon will be, wait for it, 0.1% illuminated. That is an unbelievably tiny sliver of light. I mean, good luck seeing that. A visual sighting is, for all intents and purposes, impossible. And that's not all. It fails another key test, lag time. In major cities across North America, the moon just dips below the horizon way too fast after the sun sets. In New York, you've only got 25 minutes, but you really need at least 45 minutes for the sky to get dark enough for anyone to have a chance. So, from a scientific standpoint, seeing the moon that night is a total no-go. All right, so if the science says no sighting, why is there even a debate? Well, that brings us to our second big clue. We're moving from astronomy to history now, because this whole disagreement isn't new at all. It's actually rooted in a fascinating 1,400-year-old debate inside Islamic tradition itself. And here's the key thing to understand. There are 2 completely valid, respected schools of thought on this. You've got Team Ruqya, or sighting, which says, nope, the month doesn't start until we physically see that crescent with our own eyes. Then you have Team Hisab, or calculation, which argues, hey, it's the 21st century. If we can calculate with 100% certainty that the moon is born and is potentially visible somewhere, that should be good enough. So why is Team Sighting so adamant? Well, they point to foundational traditions, like this one, a saying from the Prophet Muhammad that directly says to fast when you see the crescent. For them, it's not just about knowing the month has started. The actual act of looking at the sky, of participating in that ancient ritual, is a core part of the worship. And there's another famous tradition that backs this up, the The gist is, we're a simple people, we don't rely on complex writing or calculations. The sighting school interprets this to mean that the religion should always be accessible to everyone everywhere, whether you have a telescope and a PhD in astrophysics or not. You just need your eyes.
But the calculation camp has a really compelling counterargument. They say, look, sighting was the best technology available 1,400 years ago. It was the only way. But now we have modern science that gives us what scholars call yaqeen, which means certainty, absolute certainty. And if we have that, why wouldn't we use it? It avoids confusion, it lets people and communities plan their lives, and it could unify everyone on one day.
Okay, so we've got science versus tradition. But hold on, that's not even the end of the story. There's one last clue, a final twist in the plot. And this one has to do with something really simple. The fact that the Earth is a big, round, spinning ball. This brings in this really cool classical idea called the diversity of horizons. It's a fancy way of saying something we all know. The world has different time zones. Because the Earth is curved, someone in, say, California might see the new moon hours after the sun has set for someone in Egypt. And Islamic tradition has always had a place for this. It provides a totally valid historical reason for different places to start on different days. And people are trying to figure this out today. It's a huge, ongoing conversation. Not long ago, at a big conference in Istanbul, scholars and leaders debated all kinds of solutions. Should we have one single date for the whole world? Or maybe split the globe into 2 zones? Or do we just stick with the traditional local sighting model? The truth is, there's no single answer that everyone has agreed on, yet. Okay, so we've got the science of the moon, the history of the debate, and the geography of our planet. Let's put all 3 clues together and finally resolve this paradox. And here's the big reveal. What looks like a bug is actually a feature. This isn't a flaw in the system. The 2 different dates just show a healthy, legitimate diversity of opinion. The tradition actually puts a huge emphasis on keeping local communities together. So the #1 rule is follow your local mosque or your local religious authority. And here's the most important part. Everyone agrees that no matter which of these valid methods you follow, your fast is accepted. You're good to go. Because in the end, all of this calendar stuff points to something much, much deeper. The whole point of Ramadan isn't a cosmic race to start on the right day. The goal is to develop something called taqwa. It's this beautiful concept of God consciousness, of piety, an internal state of awareness, discipline, and compassion. So that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The 2026 paradox shows us a global faith that's flexible enough to work for people in all kinds of different situations. And maybe, just maybe, true unity isn't found in everyone starting on the exact same day, but in billions of people on 2 different days, all striving for the exact same purpose.